privilege to interview a fellow accredited land consultant, Andy Flack. Andy is the founding partner and managing broker of Homeland Properties, headquartered in Huntsville, Texas. Homeland is a powerhouse in the Central Texas market and has consistently been recognized as one of the top brokerages in Texas, selling north of $100 million in real property annually. Andy has also recently been the top land sales broker in our 2019 annual Apex Awards for total land sales against hundreds of land brokers nationwide. It is with great gratitude and thanks we welcome Andy Flack to our interview series. Andy, welcome.
Thank you, Clayton. Glad to be here.
So, Andy, in our series, we're targeting questions from esteemed brokers that have been in it for 30 plus years. We want to know all the ins and outs. Some of us are just starting. Some of us have been in the business 5 years. Some of us have been in the business 10 years. So I'm going to kind of circle some questions. And I think maybe first, tell us some information about yourself, your company, how many agents you manage, and maybe even how many listings do you manage? I mean, what's y'all's normal day to day?
Yeah, so we kind of have a standard answer for that. We get asked that quite a bit. Homeland Properties covers a region we call about 40 counties in East Texas. We go from the Gulf of Mexico to the Red River all the way to Louisiana, and mostly kind of back up to the I-45 corridor. We do go west of I-45 a little bit. We have about 15 agents, land agents that cover and handle that inventory. Our inventory is hovering somewhere around 500 listings or offerings at this time, somewhere in the neighborhood of 110,000 acres total. And wow. That we're based out of Huntsville, Texas, but obviously we travel quite a bit as well.
So I spoke with your marketing manager. She gave me a little inside information about you, but she said Homeland Properties started 31 years ago, but you've been licensed for 36 years. So, you know, how did that start? How was week one whenever you said, I'm going to be a land broker? How did that, everybody had their week one, I call it, or their day one, yeah. But how was that week one for you?
Well, I started right out of college in 1984. And for those that remember the mid 80s to late 80s, it was pretty weak markets. We were coming out of 15 to 18% interest rates and going into a recession, and then going into the big bank failure and foreclosure years of the late 80s, early 90s. So my first week was probably trying to get my feet up under me and figure out what I was going to do. Obviously being young in the business, little responsibility. I didn't need a whole lot of money to live back then, so I could try to scrap out a little bit of something as we got going. But it was kind of tough, but it was a good time to start because I didn't need a whole lot at the time.
So, knowing what you know now and through your career, if you could go back to Andy Flack week one, what would you tell Andy Flack week one? Because some of our guys are just getting their license that will be watching this series. So what would you tell Andy Flack week one?
Well, I mean, I think I had a pretty good idea week one of what I needed to do in terms of a work ethic. And so that's probably the first thing that I would say is, develop that work ethic. When you're a contract broker or agent, you work for yourself. So you got to get yourself out of bed and you got to stay at work too. So 40 hours a week back then was probably less than average. So I put in a lot of time, and I had a strong work ethic coming out of college. My parents taught me to work when I was young, so I didn't have any problem with work. But work, time is what you have to put into it when you're young, and you got to do kind of that grunt work that may not be that fun, and maybe some other people don't want to do it, but that's what you just got to take your licks and go through it, and perseverance. Looking back in hindsight, everybody young and getting started in something new wants everything to happen today. I mean, it's just not going to happen. It's, one brick at a time, just to build that wall.
So I follow you on social media, and obviously we're all in the business, and we see each other's posts and stuff. And I see a lot of your excerpts biblically, and I know you're a very Christian driven man, and well earthed and footed to the ground. But how do morals and does your faith, how does that guide your work life? You know, making decisions. I see it all the time, and we can make decisions and make ourselves a lot of money. But how does longevity, I guess, in the business and the moral character, how does that build in something that takes 36 years?
Well, we wouldn't, none of us would be here except for the grace of God. And it's by the grace of God that we're not only here, but we're in this business. We're successful in the business, and He's put us here. So we first got to give glory to Him, and then because of that moral character, integrity, ethics, they're paramount, to our work, and they all stem from our moral aptitude, and that comes from being biblically grounded in the truth and the Word of Christ.
So you said you had 15 agents, and then you included. So really, you're managing 16 agents, I would say, because you're managing your own business. Right?
I'm including myself in those 15.
Okay.
Myself, Karen Stout, and my daughter Harvey Flack kind of make up a small team that we have. We don't advertise ourselves as a team, but we handle all of, you might say, my inventory or our inventory, and then the other 12 land agents, they have their inventory, but they also spend a lot of time representing buyers that buy our inventory. We obviously work for a lot of sellers to have that kind of inventory.
Right. So what keeps you driven to motivate a team like that, especially a successful team that y'all have? What is the drive?
I think my drive is just that I love the business. I love the land business. I love being outdoors. From where we are, timberland is obviously our farm area, if you will. And I love timberland, and I just enjoy getting up every day and doing what I do. So it's so easy. And obviously, putting the deal together and making everybody happy, the buyers and sellers, when that happens, it's very gratifying. It just keeps us wanting to do more. It's awesome. Just a lot of fun.
It's my dad told me, like I'm sure yours did too. If you're never at work, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I mean, it's and that's what I try to tell anyone. But I guess let's kind of turn the page just a little bit. But going from a starting broker to a guy that's been in the business, say 5 to 10 years, and got a pretty good book of business, and is looking to do the next step, maybe be a broker. When did you know you were ready to start Homeland? What gave you the insight to really start your own deal and not work for under another broker, I guess you say, or start a bigger company?
Well, I don't know that I wouldn't have stayed with another firm. I started with a firm in 1984, early 85, and my now partner in the Homeland Properties, John Paul Lamson, and I, we worked together for about 5 years with that other firm, and the integrity and the ethics and maybe the moral character wasn't there that we expected, and so we sort of forced ourselves out, and I guess we sort of forced ourselves into starting our own company, but it was the best thing to do and the best direction to take. And so we were already both brokers within that company, so it wasn't hard to branch out. And again, it was late '89. We opened the doors of first business day of January 1990, and we were still in the markets where things were, tough. But at that time, the foreclosure market was pretty strong in terms of working for banks and the FDIC, and we were able to gain a pretty good market share of that in this area, and that kept us going.
What was a guy that's going out on his own, or maybe just went out on his own? What would be what was the worst thing you spent money on? I mean, we all do it, a pickup or
Uh,
buying that big house too quick or
no, I don't know that I could really say. I don't think I have an answer for that. Can't think of anything that I would look back and say, well, I shouldn't have done that. We've always been fairly conservative, but you know, practical and logical at the same time. We still don't have a very big office. I mean, the building we're in is about 3,500 feet, and so
wow.
we're crammed in here with a lot of people. Of course, there are a lot of people on the road. You know, we've got two guys that work out of their house in different regions, but so we've never been. We could have grown a lot bigger with a lot more people, but I feel like that we would have been managing people instead of managing our real estate business that we enjoy doing so much. But I can't really say that I have any regrets of anything we've ever spent money on. I mean, obviously in technology, the way it changes, I mean, the first cell phone was a great thing to have, but the way those things go, you're buying a new one about every year or so because of technology. Same thing with drones and digital cameras and all that kind of computers for that matter. So, you're going to that's just part of your business expense.
I struggle constantly with I guess circling back or CRM. There's several different acronyms for it, but talking to past clients and keeping contact with them. What is one thing you struggle with as a real estate broker that you constantly have to work on all the time that everybody's got their thing. That's mine, but what is something you struggle with that you have to remind yourself and think, man, I got to do more of that or
Well, as far as struggling with something personally, I can't say I do. We're blessed with a great group of people that work here. Just being in the business, we're one of the few land companies that has a full staff of personnel, GIS, mapping, video, droning, advertising. So it's not all falling on me. We have office manager, people that answer the phone. I'm not having to answer my own phone. I mean, we did that in the early days, but you slowly grow out of that. But maybe I can flip this question and the one before around and say, instead of the worst money I ever spent, the best money I've ever spent was spending it on good personnel. You can't keep all the money yourself
yeah.
that you're making. If you'll spend it on good people and good product, it will come back to you exponentially. So I don't really struggle with things that I say I need to improve on. I mean, obviously, we're all taking our continuing education, and I think that's important to stay on top of that. Even if, as a veteran broker, I can't fall into the trap of thinking I know everything and I don't need to learn anything new. That's something that will, especially in technology. I mean, I know a lot of guys my age that don't do computers or don't do email or don't, that only do fax. Well, fax is old. I mean, don't let the new technologies pass you by unless you're ready to retire, because you need to stay up on that. And there's no such thing as an old dog can't learn new tricks. I mean, but yes, you can. You'll take the time to do it. Be open-minded. Let these young people teach you, you know, those new technologies. I stay up on that. I will say that you asked me what I struggle with personally. I don't struggle with things like that, but I struggle with some industry items that other agents and brokers need to be aware of. And I think the biggest thing we struggle with is the lack of education among our agents in the industry. The easiest thing to do in this business is get a license. And I struggle with the Real Estate Commission and the Texas Association of Realtors that don't provide more stringent requirements for licensing in our industry. And, you know, I may be tailing off a little bit from your question, but I think I'm
No,
answering it plus
I think
one
it's a
that you may
valid
have
point.
asked. But
Yeah.
I think because of that is another reason why I became an ALC, is to distinguish myself from others in the business. The easiest thing to do is get a license. Well, I do this full time. I've been doing it full time for 36 years. I'm not a part-time agent. I don't have part-time agents. I don't think you can do this business effectively and represent your buyers and sellers truly in a fiduciary role by doing it part-time. And I apologize to those who disagree with me, but that's how I feel and that's our experience. And we've been successful at what we do, and that's how we practice our industry. We think we're professionals just like a CPA or attorneys, and better in some regards. And that's not to boast, that's just a fact. But we have to deal every day. Our biggest struggle is dealing with agents that are inexperienced and don't know what they're doing. And I urge agents and brokers to make sure that you are educated, that you do have the extra classes or certifications that will help you be more intelligent and more responsive in this business, so that you don't have to get answers from other brokers when you're inexperienced. Don't represent a seller if you're inexperienced. Don't represent a buyer if you're inexperienced. You're not doing them justice. What you're telling them is really that I'm working for the dollar, not for you. And so that's something, that's what we struggle with more than anything in our business.
Man,
And
that is we spoke about that in future leaders, and that's part of the meat and bones of this series is exactly trying to bring people more into, especially if you want to be in the land business. Like you said, it's a real estate license is free.
yeah,
Anybody can get one, especially in Texas. It's very easy entry. Whereas a surveyor, I'm an appraiser trainee right now, and just getting an appraisal license is tough.
yeah,
To be a surveyor in the state of Texas is tough. But a real estate license, we can buy a 4-wheel drive pickup and get a real estate license and a pair of boots, and you're a land agent all of a
that's
sudden.
right.
And man, that speaks volumes. When did you get your ALC, your accreditation?
Oh, I'd have to look, Clayton. I think it's been about 10 years now. Maybe not quite that long, but I'd known about ALC for a long time prior to getting it. I probably drug my feet. But I do think that as the internet has become more popular and social media more popular, that RLI, the Realtors Lands Institute, certainly became better known, and they've done a better job of marketing themselves and us. And so therefore the need to have that certification, I saw as a bonus, again, to distinguish myself and our company from average or below average people in the business. It's disheartening when you work full time as a land agent with the time that we have in it and the goodness, the experience and the number of acres of sales that we do, to lose a listing to a part-time agent because they have a license and their brother-in-law wants to sell a piece of property.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just, obviously it's a free world, free country. They can do what they want to, but I mean, we work hard to be professionals and then lose business because somebody else has a license. So we try to do what we can to distinguish ourselves and to prove that we have earned those extra certifications to set ourselves apart or separate us from just our average real estate agent in East Texas.
So when you got yours, obviously, you probably traveled quite a bit to several different classes, I would assume, and probably none of it online. Did they have Land U?
Nope. I did most of mine online. I think I did all of it online.
You did all of it online.
Yeah.
So now we have, for the listeners that are not familiar with an ALC is the accredited land consultant designation. Andy's an ALC, myself included. It's very similar to accreditations in other real estate professions or other, I guess, centric to land. ALC, you see it behind everyone's name, but that is an extended education process. It's multiple classes. There's some volume requirements in that. All of our video series, folks, are RLI members and accredited land consultants. And I think now we have Land U, which is a 10-day program where you can get most of your classes done there. There's also online. There are 100 ways to do it. Obviously, you can look through RLI to get any more information about that, or call me directly. It's not hard to find Clayton Pilgrim or Andy Flack. Any of us could show you in the direction of getting those education classes and getting involved in getting your ALC. But I think the value that I see that Andy's seen as well is there's not just a license there, but you have a education background, and there's so many different pieces of the puzzle, whether you're selling transitional land on outside of an urban area, or you're selling timberland like Andy and his folks are. You're selling equitable farms in Northeast Texas like we sell. That's there's so many pieces to the puzzle, and I think we have to continue to educate ourselves. And if you're not a part of RLI, you're not don't know anything about the ALC, really do your research out there. But Andy, we're going to do some rapid fire questions and we get out of here. But these are a whole lot more lighthearted and down to earth. But what's your favorite color?
Blue.
What's your favorite hobby outside of work?
Just being outdoors.
Favorite sports team?
Oh, well, it's I would say that's changed since all the COVID stuff. So I don't have one right now.
I understand. And then where does Andy Flack go whenever he's not at work? Where's his get out of town place? Where do you like to go?
I really get out of town. We live in Huntsville and we have a property here. Most of the time it's just here outside. We're usually either hunting, fishing, shooting ski, doing something, hiking, just spending time in the woods with family.
All right? So if you're a hunter, then what's your? I asked this at a question a while back. What's your favorite caliber? Are you a shotgun man or rifle man? Or?
Yeah, I'm mostly a shotgun man. We love upland bird, mostly dove hunting. We do a lot of waterfowl hunting as well. So 12, 20 gauge,
Awesome.
We shoot a lot of ski.
Well,
for that.
Andy, I appreciate the time, and man, great content, and I think this will go really far with a lot of people. I know I learned a lot, and I've been in the business a little over 5 years, and man, there's nothing better than hearing from the guys that have been there and done it and are continuing to do it. And we really appreciate it from RLI Future Leaders Committee and our listeners. We really, really appreciate it.
Sure. Thank you, Clayton. I appreciate being here.